So Tony Novak of Nantuxent, tell us about your business, who
Yeah.
you are, and who you serve.
Well, I'll start with the name since you brought it up, Meg. The Nantuxent is our local watershed here in mid-Cumberland County. That's where the oysters come from. There's Nantuxent Cove and the creek. I'm best known around here for hanging out down there at the Bay Shore, Money Island Marina and aquaculture industry. But 6 years ago, we moved to Millville, and I restarted my CPA practice here, and redesigned it from scratch, moving it from suburban Philadelphia to Middle Cumberland County. So quite a bit of difference in local market and focus. And it's still evolving, but I introduce myself as a tax problem solver. That's really my background. And the first point I want to make is nobody calls me when life is going real well. Nobody hires, you don't call the police just to say hi, or the usual first comment I get is, I think we need to call a lawyer, or we're talking about calling a lawyer. And most of the time that's nothing against lawyers, but usually that's not the good first step. Usually you want to try to solve the problem before you think about litigation. So that's really been my focus. And I joke with business owners that the messier the problem, the better suited it is for me.
All right.
We're
Well,
fortunate enough to have that. Well, years ago back in law school, we were just drilled with the exploratory approach. Keep asking questions, keep thinking outside the box, and coming from a planning approach rather than a check the boxes and go into litigation. So that's really been my strength over the years. And what I notice now, and natural progression, is as all of us are getting older, the nature of the problems solves. Where it used to be, though, it would just be a straightforward, typical financial problem. Business is struggling, cash flow is off, get behind on the IRS problem. It's pretty much black and white type of stuff. Now I'm noticing it has more to do with behavior issues. All of us are getting old. Business owners are having trouble keeping up with technology. Today doesn't act the same as the world did a decade ago, and particularly when you're dealing with government. And so I find that most of my work is in the coaching aspects of looking at the problem, really pulling out what are the real issues, what are the real priorities, what are we trying to accomplish. And in many cases now, unfortunately, for example, for the IRS problem, we may want to solve the problem and we can't because we can't reach somebody. We can't reach somebody competent. And it changes the ball game. We have to look at things in a different way and come up with a different type of approach.
to the extent that you can convince people to ask you ahead of time, how do you go about that? What do you do?
And we notice specifically in this area, the background of business owners, small business owners, is skewed very heavily. Most of my clients are over age 65. Most of them own a business and think they know what they're going to do to end that business, sell it, or get out of it. But in reality, there's no plan. The real problems come when there's actually a physical crisis, whether that's a health condition or a family crisis or sometimes a divorce. Something is forcing major life decisions, and there really aren't people out there that can help with that situation. So again, people, I would use the lawyer example. Somebody will say, "Oh, I'm facing this terrible problem. I need to call a lawyer and talk it through." Well, it's going to be an expensive approach. Really, what you need is to probably talk it through and get some coaching, clarify your priorities. What are you trying to accomplish? What are your resources? What are your options? And go from there. And and I'm finding out that business planning, end of career business planning, has become a big part of what's needed around here, and something that I've been able to step in and have some success stories.
When did you relocate from Philadelphia to the Cumberland County area?
We moved down here. I had been driving through the area for 30 years, but we relocated. And within a month of relocating here and me being excited to get out and meet the chamber and meet the community, and now I'm going back to where you would think would be the logical starting point. That is dealing with people face to face, across town, across the desk, or in person. So it almost seems backwards in that sense, but I really feel like that's where what's needed right now.
Yeah, it's like an old school solution to a modern problem.
Right.
Sure. Yeah, so that's great direction. So Tony, for anyone who is listening, how does this look from their perspective? What should they do and what should they expect?
Well,
Mhm.
if we have time, and we can, I'd like to address the general question: what
Sure,
does somebody do that's wondering, and then a specific example, if that's okay.
sure. Go ahead.
So if somebody's wondering, hey, could Tony be at a better use to me? I always say, and I learned, and I'm happy to have learned, that you show people that you can help by actually helping them. And this is a unpopular concept in the professional fields. Most attorneys don't want to pick up, or CPAs. I'm picking on attorneys for some reason today, but most professionals don't want to pick up the phone from a stranger calling, set aside what they're doing, and chat with them for a few minutes and say, "Hey, yeah, maybe we should talk about this more," or really, you're better off taking a different approach. But that's really what that person needs. Someone that is stressed, they've received a letter in the mail from the house. That's really what they want. They want to pick up the phone. They want to call somebody like me. And it happened just 2 days ago. Somebody local, probably I was the first one that came up in Google, and they called. And most CPAs would say that's exactly the kind of call I don't want to take. But I take the opposite approach. So if it turns out that it was a person that didn't have, wasn't computer savvy, and I said, "Do you have any nieces or nephews that you can talk to about this? It's not hard if you know how to use a computer." But that kind of thing. But that's the kind of help that they're not going to get from the community. It's really hard to get that type of help. So I really do encourage people that whatever, if you think you have a problem, reach out and just have a conversation. There's no cost, there's no pressure, there's no obligation. We talk about what can be done and what can't be done, and what your other options are. In this case, this woman, her options was to talk to somebody that was computer savvy. So if it's as simple as that, I'm happy to do that. But let me give a specific story, a specific type of case that I'm getting a lot of right now, and that is the self-employed, the business owner, where business has slowed down, in whether it's tariffs, whether it's the economy, whether it's disposable income of customers, whatever. Business has slowed down. And very often, unfortunately, the first bill that doesn't get paid is often the tax bill. And if you're self-employed, that's a self-employment tax, 15% of your net. It piles up in a hurry. And if you have employees, unfortunately, it's often the what are called trust funds, your employees' Social Security. That's serious when you don't pay that. You could be talking about criminal situations, and I'm one of the relative few CPAs that does handle criminal cases. So, but it's important to step back and really look at the whole big picture of your life. Really, if you're in that type of situation, you have to look at how this problem may affect your life. And I am working with a trucker right now, the young guy in his 30s, built up. He had 40 trucks on the road, but when tariffs came down, he just started losing contracts and losing business, and fuel prices went up. And he was thinking about bankruptcy. As a matter of fact, the bankruptcy was our plan, and he mostly negotiated out of that. We talked it through. I handled the IRS. He handled his truck leasing companies. And yeah, he's still in a world of hurt. There's no way around it. It's going to affect his life. He's $500 million in debt to the IRS, but he has some real estate, which is hopefully going up in value, and we can work through those problems, and we can talk about his priorities. And we talked about he had confided with me that he actually started seeing a therapist, which was, wonderful news. That's exactly what you need in that kind of situation. But the point is, what he thought was going to be disastrous, possible criminal risk, bankruptcy, we were able to pretty much solve that. Now we're talking civilly. We're going to come up with a problem. The revenue agent is willing to work with us because we've established credibility, and we can work through. And it's going to take a couple of years. But the point is, again, that's the kind of service, that's the kind of story that I'm really happy to be proud of. And my bet is that he will be running another successful business within a few years.
Your clients know that they have support and that they have a plan.
Yeah, again, a little bit different than the average. All clients have my cell phone, and they're allowed to call, or if they call or text in the evening, and I've had a glass of wine, I'm not answering it. But if I can, empty nester, and I could talk, I'm happy to talk to them. There's no restrictions. Again, that's pretty rare in the field. But the point is, being able to reach somebody, the next day or the next week at an appointment at 10 in the morning might not be what you need. If you just had some kind of stressful blowout with whatever, perhaps it was with the spouse or a business partner or whatever, you need to talk to somebody right then, as soon as possible, in order to be able to sleep that night. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And so I encourage people to just, reach out whenever, and if we can deal with it, we deal with it right away. But just the comfort of knowing they call, text, I say, yeah, got it, understand, I'll take care of it tomorrow. You're just hearing that, is a enormous benefit, which frankly there's not enough of in today's business world.
How do you prefer people to reach out to you? And can you give us your contact
Right.
information?
Nantuxent.com is my website. Nantuxent.com, 856-237-9199. Again, that works better than a business number, than the office number, and I don't mind taking a call or a text.
Tony, very nice to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Mike.